The last Faoii. For generations, they've defended the wall, until the day the monastery fell. Will one woman be enough to raise an army? Kaya has studied hard, learned to fight, and knows the old ways. She has learned to be a warrior in service of a great goddess. Now, with everyone she's ever known slaughtered, there isn't anyone else. Honor bound to the eternal blade, she must find a way to defeat an ancient foe. What is her first move? Is she prepared for what she'll find outside the cloister's walls? In a broken empire, a darkness grows, a bleak future sows panic among the people as Kaya sets out to avenge her fallen sisters. She finds her training won't be enough to defeat the army that creeps across the land. She must learn to lead, and she must develop her powers. Will there be time? You'll love this first book in this new military fantasy series, because the solutions aren't always obvious, and the true danger can't be known. The Last Faoii. Written by Tahani Nelson. Narrated by Sara Morsey. Pick up your copy on Amazon today or Audible for the audiobook. Hello. So, as you just saw in my trailer, today I will be reviewing the audiobook, The Last Faoii. So, let's begin with the cover. Well, starting with the cover, I'm going to obviously come back to this, but I will tell you, this cover kind of set a precedent for what I thought later on in the series. It's perfectly fine. It's a very good cover for what the story is. So I have absolutely no complaints. I can't honestly say, of the covers I've reviewed on this channel, I don't think this one needs to be changed. However, when I was creating my own book covers, and when I was thinking about publishing, I did a research into what people often liked. And one of the big things that most people often said is they don't really like when people are on the covers of books. The reason why is because it's kind of showing you a character from that book, and your mind is already set to the picture of that character. You can't create that character in your own mind. If it had not been for the cover of this book, I probably would not have easily picked up that the main character was African American. I would have thought darker skin, maybe like a tan, a very deep tan or something. But, I can understand why people say that when it comes to covers. Does that take away For me, no. If this was the kind of story I was going to be interested in, and someone recommended it to me and I saw it on Amazon or Audible and I said, okay, I'll check it out. But again, as I've stated in a previous video, and I think I might just do a whole video about covers, and I might strike this out completely of my reviews. Honestly, I don't think covers really set a precedent for whether someone's going to buy your book or not. Now, can the book cover get somebody to buy it? Yes. That is a guaranteed thing. Yes, it can get somebody to buy it. But people don't normally go out and buy books based on the cover. I have spent a lot of time watching customers at Walmart walk past the book section. And I've even asked a couple of them. Most of the time when people go looking for a book, they were looking for the book to begin with. When I went and looked for books anytime at Walmart, I went in with the purpose that I wanted to go buy that book, which is why I went to the book section. And books, honestly, are so overpriced nowadays that, yeah, people aren't going to usually spur by. They're not going to go, oh my God, that's the beautifulest cover I've ever seen. I've got to have it. And just pick it up because that book might be $20-$30. You might check out the back, but no one's going to freak out over a cover. It's all been done before. Same thing with the stories inside. For the most part, every story's been done. Yeah, they haven't been done in every single way. Authors are always creating and coming up with new ideas. It's better than movies, because with movies nowadays, you get only reboots and stuff. But that's all. You know what? The cover was good. I will make a video fully dedicated to covers, and you can expect more of this ranting about it in a future video. But moving on to the title. So, for the title, I'm going to say that I think it needed to be better. I don't want to spoil this early in the review. So, I just accept for now that this title did not work for me. And at the end, when I go through the ending, I'll explain more. The story was really good. I did like the story a lot. But I had a few issues. And surprisingly, it's probably not the issues you would think. First off, I can't begin to tell you how incredibly hard, whether it be in books, movies, or video games, it is to write a story where the main character is a woman. I believe women have shot themselves in the foot or allowed themselves to get shot in the foot by these feminists, and it has hurt you more than it will ever help you. Because now people are so sick and tired of the woke and SJW and feminist and racist agendas and being called ist and phobes that something like this doesn't work. And what I mean by that is, if you have an opinion, any opinion, it doesn't matter whether it's valid or not, just because the fact that the main character was a woman or the main character was a person of color, you instantly are classified as an istophobe, which is wrong because that's not true. And in this case, with this story, that had no bearing on what I thought of the story. I didn't care what color she was. I didn't care that it was a woman. The author did not do some of the worst things that these SJW and feminists do. She did not parade around the main character like she was better than all the men. In fact, the men and the women worked together as equals, which is something I applaud this writer for. You know, when you can have a main character that is a woman and you don't need to step on men to get that across, that we are equal, we're both human, and we can work together to help each other rather than sit there and accuse and hurt each other, I have to say that's really good. So what issues did I have? Well, first off, things happen a little too quickly in the book. The main character, something happens, she suffers, she gets help, goes somewhere, gets captured, then gets immediately freed, and goes out with the person that she just happens to need to get to the next place and do the next thing she needs to do. That's kind of the first 10 chapters out of a 41 or 42 chapter book. Honestly, at certain points I was so enthralled in the story, I kind of slipped past that whole chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 announcements. And I was just like, wait, what chapter am I on? And I had to really listen because I was just so enthralled in the story that I wasn't hearing what chapter I was on. But no, I just think, okay, so this is kind of a double-edged sword here because the book was very long. Like I just said, it's like 41 chapters long. But at the same time, certain elements were kind of skipped over, or not really skipped over, just rushed over. And I think that this book could have benefited it better if this one had been broken up into two or expanded more. But for the first book, if you expand more, you run the risk of losing your audience. So there's that. You know, when it comes to my book series, I want to put out as many books as possible. I want the people to be able to afford my book. The bigger my book is, the more these companies are going to charge you for them. I don't want that. I want everybody to be able to afford my book. My books are $12.99. This one is $13.99. And honestly, this author could probably ask for so much more, because this is a long book. She could be charging a full $19.99 for the paperback, but she probably wouldn't sell as many. But yes, this is a very long book. I think if she had maybe expanded on this one a little bit more and broke it up into 2 parts, she could have dived in deeper into certain areas, spent a little more time teaching the main character things that, again, this, like, with the pace of the story, it kind of seems the main character goes from one thing to another very quickly. And I think it just needed to slow down a little bit and be pushed in a little bit more of how she's gaining that experience. Other than that, though, I was so enthralled in the story, and I think a part of that was because I was trying to keep up with the story. I felt like if I didn't, I was going to lose track of what was going on. So there's that. There's also the fact that, as I was listening to it, now, from what I read you at the beginning during the trailer, this kind of, to me, felt like a female version of Vikings, like an Amazon version of Vikings. And they go up against, like, I don't really want to say, but we'll just call them, like, men with demon powers or something. We'll say something like that. And because of everything that was going on, I sort of got the feeling that this felt to me, if you couldn't guess by my trailer, this felt very much like it belongs inside the universe of the Elder Scroll games, like Skyrim or Oblivion. It felt something like that, just without any other kind of race, just straight up all humans. But that's how the story came across. I think the world needed to be fleshed out a little better too, because it kind of felt like we only stayed in this one little kingdom area. There was that too. But moving on to the narration now. The narration was pretty good, very good. There were some times that the narrator, again, I don't know if this is just something that happens with things on Audible or self-published or new, audiobook narrators, but again, with this narration, which I was listening to on a totally different device than the previous review I did, it just sounded to me like mics were switched out or something, or placed in a different spot, because the narrator sounded like they had a completely different tone for 2 chapters. And then it just kind of went back to the other way it sounded. It's just, to my ears, it sounded a little bit off. Also, I'm going to add into narration here, is there is a whole chapter where the book switches from kind of a third-person view to a POV. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with it switching, because it actually did kind of set it up at the end of the chapter. She's like, explain what happened to you. And so the whole next chapter was one character telling her side of the story. And the problem I have with this is that is okay and fine, but I don't know if it's just me being nitpicky, or if anyone else has ever noticed this when you listen to a book or read a book. You can't really go as deep into details when someone's telling their side of a story, especially if you are in a rush situation or you think you could be attacked at any time. The story has to fit the feeling of the time. I'm not going to sit here and go through telling you a story from my point of view and tell you about the leaves on a tree. Or I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he pressed his elbows, see, I'm already messing it up. I pressed my elbows hard as I spoke to my mic and told my thoughts, my inner deep secrets of what I thought of this book's narration. It's a little too much detail as to I sat at my computer giving my review of the book I had just finished, which is probably how people would normally talk, even if they spoke with different accents or different, words. I mean, maybe that's just me being a little nitpicky when it comes to dialogue, but I try not to do that in my own series, and I've noticed it, when the entire story is told from a character's perspective, I think it plays a little better. I don't know. Again, please, if I'm crazy, tell me in the comments below. If you've come across that and you're just like, yeah, that does not sound realistic at all, tell me that too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Moving on to characters. The characters were fine. Again, I had no real problem with the characters. Sometimes, I guess, if I had to nitpick, there were times where it's like, okay, so I know who the main character is. I know who the main character's friends are. I have no idea who these characters are. Or the book was so long, there was like characters mentioned at the beginning and then characters brought up at the end. And it's like, oh, I completely forgot about those people. Or the bad guy, I was like, I didn't understand what he was doing. And I think I kind of got a little bit sidetracked from his plot and everything. I think I understand the ending of the book, so I'm probably going to have to listen to it again at some point if I continue on in this series. But I'm going to be doing book 2. Yes, this is part of a series, so. But other than that, the characters were pretty good. So, moving on to extras. I do want to point out the ending maybe needed to be, again, stretched out a little longer. As for going back to the title, and when I said I would talk about the ending with the title, is the title is The Last Faoii. And get comfortable with that word, by the way, because the word Faoii is said so many freaking times in the book. I think the author needs to reduce the amount of times she types the word. I'm amazed she's not sick of that word. But the title is called The Last Faoii, and spoiler warning from here on out. The reason the title doesn't fit is because she kind of isn't the last. Even after the events of the first few chapters, she instantly keeps finding more. And it's like, oh, I thought she was supposed to be the last. So I feel like this could have had a different title, like The Fall of the Faoii or something along those lines. But, we'll see where it goes moving on. I just didn't feel this title quite hit it out of the park, or it kind of felt, I guess you could say, like a lie. Like, I watched this show called The Last Man on Earth. If anybody here has watched that show, you know that is not what the show should be called, because he is not the last man on Earth. I don't know what they could have called that show, but in episode 1, we find out he's no longer the last man on Earth, or the last person on Earth. And it would have been better, I think, if he was the last man on Earth, and it was just a short series. Here, she is not the last. I also don't even like the fact they called episode 8 The Last Jedi, because, of course, it's not going to be the last of anything. If you're going to call yourself the last, make it true. Make it be the last of something. But that's just a minor gripe, I guess, on my opinion. Maybe you guys feel differently. Does it take away from the story? Not at all. Just don't be thinking about it. Does it take away from the title or the cover? No. Does it take away from the characters? No. Because the characters, they don't know what the title of the book is. So, what am I going to rate this? Well, I really did like it. And I did have some issues with it. And my issues might just be nitpicky. But also, I don't want to set the bar too high. So this is going to get a 7 out of 10 from me. I do think there is room for improvement. I am interested to see where the story goes moving forward. And yeah, I think if the story gets better, then it could get a higher score next time. From what I've seen already, I feel like the cover art isn't really going to change from one cover to another. So, again, I had no real problem with the cover. Like I said, I will do a whole episode on cover arts and covers in general. This has been my review for The Last Faoii, written by Tahani Nelson, narrated by Sara Morsey. You can pick up your own copies on Audible and on Amazon. Tahani does have a website, which will be in the description below if you want to check out her website. You can also find her probably on social media. So if you visit her website, you can go check out her social media accounts and become a fan. I want to thank you for listening to this review. And before I go, I have a couple of announcements. Number one, to all writers that have watched these videos, if you have an audiobook, you can feel free to visit my website or Facebook or Twitter, directly message or email me, and ask me if I'd be willing to review your book, your audiobook. Again, I must stress this enough. I only review audiobooks. If you are a reader, please, if you enjoy this book, if you pick up this book and you like it, please consider picking up my book series, The Guardian of Light. Also, I'm going to ask an interesting question. If you didn't comment about anything else I talked about in this video, please feel free to comment on this. I'm trying to decide, do you guys want me to do reviews of my own books on this channel? Tell you what my thoughts are looking back from book 1 to the last one as of right now is book 4. But by the time I get around to doing those reviews, or all of the reviews, I might have book 5 out by then. So, do you want me to kind of go through the process I am with these and review my own books and try to be as non-biased as possible? Or do you want to just pick it up on your own and check it out yourself? Either way, leave a comment below if you'd be interested in me doing that. It's not something a lot of authors, I think, do. And it might be fun to review my own book, you know? Because, yeah, I mean, trust me, my favorite of all my books is book 3. So, spoiler, if I had to review those, that's probably going to get a 9 or a 10. So, if you have an audiobook and you want me to review it, let me know. If you want to check out my book series, The Guardian of Light, the link for that will be down in the comment section below, along with all the other links that I told you I'd be putting down there. So, check out some new books. Get some good reading done. I want to thank you all for watching, and happy writing.